You can support my channel at any time by going to ko-fi.com/jocookyoga and making a small donation in thanks for this class. Please accept this content, whatever you can afford or not afford to give. It is given to you without any expectation of payment, but any of you that can afford, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Let's practice. Hello, welcome to my yoga class. My name is Jo. Currently have a cat purring in the background, so that's the noise that you might be able to hear, but hopefully that's quite a soothing noise. I don't know how long she'll stay with us, but she's here at the moment. Sit down, cross your legs if that's comfortable for you. If not, any seated position is fine, including on a chair if you need to. So crossing your legs. I always sit to begin my practice because it gives me a moment to separate whatever my life is outside my yoga practice from my yoga practice. It's like a little buffer zone between the two. So that's what we're trying to do here. Less focus here than in the rest of the class about exact alignment, but do make sure you're comfortable and thoughtful about how you position yourself. I'm using my hands, pressing down in order to lift my spine. As I lift my spine, I'm making sure that these muscles here, the connective muscles between the hips and the legs, don't lift my knees up. So if you do choose to cross your legs, make sure that there is a sense of releasing down with the legs. You can close your eyes if you find that comfortable, and if you find that it helps to bring your focus inward. Because as well as creating a separation between life outside your yoga practice and your practice itself, we also want to shift ourselves into that sensitive state of awareness, noticing and feeling the bodily position and sensations that we then use throughout our practice. You can keep your hands pressing down onto the floor or support if you find that helpful, or you can rest your hands onto your legs or bring your hands to a prayer position in front of you. Today I'm going to rest my hands. Also use this time to connect with breathing. Bring quietness to your face, your jaw, your mouth, your eyes, your neck. Then sit for as long as you wish to. When you're ready to finish, turn your face towards the floor. Open your eyes slowly, letting the focus come back to your eyes as slowly as you want to, not rushing out to grab hold of any particular image with your eyes. And then lift the head and straighten out the legs. We're going to begin with a gentle twist. So I am sat on a couple of yoga blocks, not sat straight down on the floor. My legs are straight out in front of me with my feet pointing upwards, feet flexed, legs straight. If you struggle to straighten your legs, keep your knees a little bit bent and even slightly apart. Coming down here. And then we're going to turn to the right. So take your right hand behind you. If you need to lean back to reach the floor, then instead of leaning, take a block and take your left hand on across your legs if you're able to, or onto your legs somewhere. So a very gentle twist at this point. Look back at your feet, and you want to avoid the feet moving forwards or backwards from each other. So to keep those 2 feet in alignment so that the twist begins higher up your body than your hips. If your feet move, it means that you've begun the twist in the hips rather than higher in the spine. Let's face the front. And then we're going to turn to the left. So left hand goes behind you, right arm reaches across the body hand to the outer thigh. Look back at your feet, make sure they're in alignment. Your feet are as if they're pressing against a wall at this point. And then we're going to face the front again. Bend your knees and we're going to stand up into Uttanasana. So you can come straight to Uttanasana if you like, so you'll have your feet slightly apart, hands on the floor if you're able to do that with straight legs, or onto support of any height you like if you're not able to have hands on the floor with straight legs. And sometimes it's not about what you can do at your maximum, it's about what your body feels like it needs at this point in the practice. So draw the shoulders away from your ears, reach your sternum forwards, lift your tummy button slightly up towards the spine. All of that is aiming for the flatness across the back. So not rounding, and if you feel like your back is rounding and there's nothing you can do about it because your body's not got enough openness yet, then you lift your hands higher, even onto a chair seat. Whatever height you need to feel that good alignment in your body, that's the place your body needs to be right now. If your legs are struggling to straighten, then let's bend them for a moment. Take the weight into the heels and then push the heels through the floor as you straighten the legs. Now that may make you slant slightly backwards with your weight. So then bring the weight slightly forwards so that you have weight on the heels and the balls of the foot. Move the shoulders away from the ears again. Check all of those things about your back. And then we're going to take a long, deliberate breath in order to have plenty of oxygen as we slowly stand up and breathe out. Take another breath and then release. Now we're going to use a belt for a couple of moments, a yoga belt. So a yoga belt has a sliding buckle. It's a rigid fabric, it's not stretchy. It has a sliding buckle like so. If you don't have a yoga belt, you might have a conventional dress belt that might work for this. It might be that it's actually better in this specific scenario to just do the work without the belt. I'm making the loop the right size so that it can go on the middle of my upper arm, so kind of the middle of my bicep, and that's on both arms, and it can hold my arms to the sides of my body. So for me that's just a tiny bit too big. Now the idea of this is it's going to give us a physical adjustment to make sure that we are holding the arms back. Okay, so you can see how the belt goes across my back, definitely not on the waist. Okay, it can go a little higher up the back, but not down on the waist. That's really important because we don't want to push the waist forwards. So the belt is across the back, it's on each upper arm fairly evenly, the best you can do. That belt holds my arms to the side of me rather than allowing my shoulders to roll forwards. I'm going to change position just so you can see again. So in Tadasana, but with the arms drawn backwards with the help of the belt. So this should be fairly comfortable. Not a huge stretch, but teaching us the correct alignment of the arms, because most of us, it's hard to show once I've got the belt on, but most of us round forwards too much and the arms start to come around to the front of the body due to habit and the way that we do all of our lives in front of us, driving cars, sitting at desks and so on. My feet are parallel, weight back into my heels, tailbone in. So Tadasana, mountain pose, deceptively simple. Looks simple because it looks like just standing up. Complicated because there are so many little areas of detail to be aware of in standing up. And we have to break our habits so that we can break into awareness instead of working with habit. And we're going to come forwards with the arms back like this. So make sure your feet are slightly apart, keeping the legs straight. This time I'm not going to be able to reach down for any support, so it doesn't matter about having support there. I'm lifting up very strongly with my legs. If you have a knee injury or a tendency to hyperextend, do be careful of the knees, and if in doubt you can bend the knees a little, but ideally you're working with straight knees. Lifted legs, lifted at the front of the thigh, lifted at the side, lifted at the back of the legs. Weight is not just in the heels, it's in the ball of the foot as well. Notice how I'm still lifting my chin forwards to keep the front of my body under here extending, but I'm keeping my shoulders back, and that helps to keep the front of the body open as well. This is quite difficult to maintain because I haven't got my hands down. So if you find that your back is being tired or you can't maintain it any longer, then do stand up. As you come further down past parallel with the floor, you need to really work on lifting the shoulders upwards, lifting the fingertips upwards towards the ceiling. So this is all about doing the forward bend, but keeping the front body very open. And then breathe in again. And come up as you breathe out. And then we can release the belt off the arms. And then we're going to interlace the fingers. So we're going to interlock the fingers like so and place the knuckle of the thumb, so interlacing the fingers, placing the knuckle of the thumb here into the tailbone. Like so. That's going to help us to wing our elbows backwards, and we're going to do the same position again. So feet slightly wide. We really have to stabilise and straighten the legs by holding the muscles of the legs steady, lifting those shoulders back, lifting the elbows back without squeezing the shoulder blades together too tightly, so they don't want to clash into each other. This is another way of keeping the chest open. The legs have to lift up tremendously hard. Keep lengthening the front of your body. Don't let it curve and shorten. Keep lengthening the front of the body. Lifting the shoulders away from the floor. If you become fairly well folded, you can let your head hang. The neck feels long, but don't allow the shoulders to hang their weight down onto the neck. The shoulders are still lifting up, lifting back. And then again, breathe in and let that breath out as you stand up slowly. So that technique of breathing in and then breathing out helps to go against lightheadedness as you go down and back up. If you do struggle with lightheadedness with these, particularly if you have things like low blood pressure, then you might be better to simply keep your hands on the floor. And of course you need to make sure that you are exercising within any medical guidelines that you've been given. And if in doubt, please get some help from a teacher in person. So, triangle pose. We take our feet apart, avoiding any cats. We're going to do this to the right. Turn your back foot in, front foot out, wide arms, straight lifted legs. So those lifted legs we just used in the last pose still need to lift. Wide arms, shoulders down. Bring your hand with the brick down behind your calf. Reach up and out with the upper arm. If that's tough on your shoulder, then reach out like so. We're still keeping the shoulder back, okay? So don't allow the shoulders to come forwards at all. That belt that we used and those 2 times we've just done Uttanasana, that taught us what it felt like to stay open in the front shoulder, and that's what we're going to try and work on here. The low shoulder also stays away from the ear. So arm in whatever orientation you like, but shoulder is back. Lifting up through the legs, tailbone in. You can come up. We're going to do that to the other side. So face the feet to the front, swap the brick to the other hand. Of course you can do this with your hand to the floor or with your hand to a chair seat instead. One's higher, one's lower, of course. What gets more difficult is keeping this shoulder back. So in a moment we're going to try again with the belt. So bring your hand down reaching out with the upper arm, which if you're going to your left this time, the upper arm is the right hand. Just make sure you do both sides. Or reaching back if your shoulder prefers, making sure that this shoulder stays open. So your arm is along the side of you, and if anything, towards the back of the side waist, not towards the front of the side waist. All of that helps to keep the shoulders open, which also helps us to learn the twist that there is in triangle pose, to make sure our torso faces forward. Lifted straight legs, tailbone coming in, and then let's come up, arms down, feet to the front. Now take your belt again if you have one, place it on exactly as we did before. If you don't have a belt, then you're simply going to work in the same way that you just did. If you do have a belt, we're going to put the belt on the arms and we're going to work on triangle pose with the belt. So you're going to need to put your hand onto your leg this time. So turn your foot. You should feel that the shoulders are drawn around the side of the body. Reach your hand down to your leg. You should be able to reach that because the belt is not in the way of your elbow. You can feel how if you pull too far forwards with this arm is going to get drawn behind you. So try to keep a balance in that. But reaching back with your upper arm, which if you're taking your right hand down, will be your left hand. Draw the tailbone down. Lift the tummy button into your body. The belt does not go across your waist. Remember, I said that the first time we used it. The belt is higher up the back than that. So the point here is it makes us aware of the back where the belt crosses across it. If we're rounding the back, we'll feel the back push into the belt. But it's also just helping us understand how to move the shoulders. Standing back up, turn the feet to the front, and then we do that on the other side. So if you're working without the belt, you can do all of the principles, you just don't have the prop that's kind of pulling you and helping to move you, but it doesn't mean that you can't do the same work. So you have straight legs, take your hand down to your leg, reach out with what is the upper arm, it's not going to reach up this time, straight lifted legs, as I've said, draw your tailbone forwards, tummy button backwards. Now be aware of what that belt is doing for you. We don't use props without purpose. So the purpose of the prop here is it's lifting the shoulders back, it's making us aware of our back, and then we're coming back up again, turning the feet to the front and bring your feet together. Step the feet apart for warrior pose 2. Now you can keep the belt on if you like, or if you're working without a belt or you don't enjoy the feeling of the belt, what we're going to do anyway is keep the hands behind the thighs for warrior pose 2. So turn your left foot in, your right foot out, keep the hands behind the thighs. All of that is not actually about your hands, it's about keeping the shoulders and the side ribs facing the front, and then bend your right knee. You can slide the right hand behind the knee and bring the outer knee back towards the hand so that you're making sure that this inner thigh stays parallel to the front edge of your mat. Don't let it drift forwards as much as possible, as well as keeping your inner thigh parallel to the front of the mat. You also press into the back foot to move the left thigh back. That's a very strong hip opening, so you may not be able to do all of that on both legs at once. That's fine. It's tough. Do what you can. Draw your tailbone down. So here, shoulders are open. Your torso still is probably going to want to drift off in the direction of this bent leg. So really focus, tailbone in, on turning the waist, turning the ribs, turning the shoulders. And then you can raise the hands, but keep them back as you raise them. Just back at shoulder line. Don't allow them drift forward, but they don't have to be excessively back. And then straighten that front leg. Rest your arms, turn your feet to the front and swap to the other side. So turning out to do this on the left, straight legs, hands behind your thighs, bend the knee, keep the inner thigh parallel to the front edge of the mat, keep the torso turned to the front, and then raise the hands. I'm pressing my back foot strongly down into the floor. to try and move this thigh back. So there's the opening in the hips, turning in the torso, comfort in the shoulders. And then we're going to straighten the legs. Keep the arms up if you can this time. Turn and do Virabhadrasana 2 a second time. Press strongly through the heel this time to draw the tailbone in, controlling the urge for this bottom to push backwards and your chest to drop forwards. Still remembering the other points from the first time of keeping the shoulders, torso turned. Come up from that side, arms can rest if you need them to, and go to your left. Pressing through the heel of the bent leg to try and draw the tailbone in to control the urge of your bottom to stick out backwards, reaching the tailbone down to make sure the spine has got space to make that movement, and then straighten your legs, feet face forwards. Now we're going to go straight into Parsvottanasana, which means I'm going to face along my mat like so. So I started facing forwards. If you know this pose, which looks like so, and you need something for your hands, get bricks or a chair to place your hands on at this point. Otherwise we're going to turn the back foot deeply in and the front foot all the way out. So nearly but not quite all the way around with that back foot, front foot all the way out and slightly out to the side if that makes you feel steadier and more balanced. Press the back heel down, really make sure this leg is straight but bring the hip around the front. Strong stretch here. Then we're going to lean forwards, just part way. Adjust the hips to face the front again, check the legs, straight legs, keep going, and then when you need to, take your hands to the support. If taking your hands to the support causes you to round your back or desperately need to bend your knee, next time you need to have more height underneath your hands. Redouble the strength of your legs to come up with straight legs, and the feet to the front, and then we do that to the other side. So remember, if you needed extra support under your hands, the two sides are not necessarily the same, but you may need extra support on this side as well. You're going to find out in a moment. So push the back heel down, straighten the legs, lift up through both legs, square your hips to face along your mat. Come over the front leg, go part way, and then feel what the legs are doing. Are they still straight? Are they still lifting? Can you adjust your hips to be more square here? Go down as far as you can without putting the hands down. And then bring the hands down. When the hands go down, that is not the signal that the legs stop lifting. The hands should be down with enough lightness that you can take them away from the floor without feeling that you're going to fall over. So you haven't come to rely on the hands. They do help, but they're more there to help with the extension of the spine. And then let's redouble the strength of the legs to stand up. Turn your feet to the front and then bring your feet together. So we're going to carry forwards this idea of keeping the shoulders back into Parsvottanasana. You've got two options. You can do this with the belt, but I would only advise you do that if you are used to the pose and if your legs feel strong enough. So if you're just learning the leg strength, or today your legs just don't feel all that strong, then I would say do this without using the belt itself, just in case you want to at some point bring the hands down. Okay, so place the belt onto your hands because your arms are now slightly impinged, so do work safely, but what I mean is you can't reach the floor as easily, they're not releasable. Okay, so work safely, don't use the belt unless you're absolutely sure and you are comfortable with this. Step your feet apart. So belt or not, move those arms back. Turn the back foot deeply around and the front foot all the way around. Hands are not going to go down this time, so you don't need any support. It also means we're not going to stay as long, and it's going to be more of a continuous motion up and back, and we're really going to focus on keeping the distance between the two shoulders wide and open on the front body. So strong legs, go part way like we did before. Feel the turn of the hips, feel the openness of the chest. You should feel like the figurehead of a ship, like one of those old carved figureheads on the prow of a boat. Reaching forwards with the front of your body. Go carefully. Don't push yourself past the point of endurance. And then come back up, keeping the front body open. Go as slowly as you can, but stay safe. Turn the feet to the front. Bring your feet back together between sides if you need to. Pause the video if you need to. Turn to the other side when you're ready. Strong lifted legs, shoulders back and open. Lifting forwards. So I'm bending down, but I'm not thinking or using the word down. I'm thinking about lifting forwards, keeping those shoulders back. Tremendous strength required in the legs here. And then we start to reverse the process, coming back up. We turn the feet to the front and we step or jump the feet together. And you can take that belt off. So we're going to do that one more time, Parsvottanasana, and this time you can either put your hands on your hips, you can clench your hands behind your back, or if you're struggling to do this without touching the floor, then you can have support again, okay? So I say clench, it's not clench because there shouldn't be any aggression in it. It's clasp the fingers, and again the knuckle of the thumb is going to go into the tailbone. Now last time we did this, I didn't say which way round to clasp your hands. So clasp your hands without thinking, and then you need to change the clasp of the hands so that the other thumb is on top. Not just changing the thumbs, but take your fingers, clasp them your usual way, and then move them all down one and clasp the other way, and also swap the thumbs over. So that's what I mean, and it makes a subtle difference to your wrists and your shoulders, so it's important to even that up. So facing the front, clasp your fingers your non-habitual way. If it feels a bit weird, you've probably got it right. Turn to the side, same leg position as same lifted legs, drawing the elbows back, strong lift up the front of the body. So I'm extending forwards, lifting up with the legs, both legs, trying to have the hips square in front of me, lifting those elbows so that I lift the shoulders. Keep your breath steady. If you need to, you can release the hands, but if you don't need to, keep the hands and then come all the way back up. If you did the last online class I did, we were working on prayer position behind the back, and that is an even more challenging arm position. This is more accessible. So, clasp the hands, keep it that same strange way round, because that's what we did last time. Elbows go back. Generally make sure you even up that clasp across your practice. Lifting up through the legs, builds huge leg strength, but go at your own pace. Extend and lift the front of the body forwards. Only bend down as far as your body lets you, and continuing to keep that body extending forwards. I think that's as much as I can do today. And then come up. So I could go further down, but I'd only be going further down by hunching, and that isn't any part of what I want my body to learn. And we bring the feet together. Okay, I'm going to change the camera angle because we're going to do a little bit of lying and seated work now. We're going to work on some hip extension and flexibility. So I've got a ledge here because I've got a windowsill. I've also got a bench on this side. If you don't have either of those to hand in the space that you're practicing in, you can do this on a wall as well. So I'm going to go to this side. I'm going to lie on my back. I'm going to take both feet initially onto my ledge or onto the wall. And then I'm going to cross my right foot over in fact it's my right ankle over the top of my left thigh. and without swinging my hips. So you can see there, I'm actually just swinging my hips, and all of that is coming from my hips and my waist. I'm going to keep that steady, and I'm going to work on moving the knee away from me. No force, just going to keep my hips steady and work on moving the knee away from me. And if I keep the hips steady, that isolates the stretch into the outer hip. So you can, if you're not sure or very aware of where your hips are, you can keep your hands on your hips. If you do feel comfortable, that you can keep awareness of that just through your inner awareness, your imagination, then you can rest the hands. Then we're going to swap the legs. If you find when you cross your legs, this knee is really close to your chest, if it's in like that and you just can't move it, you need to either move your foot up and down the wall or move yourself further from the wall. Equally, if you find that it's far too easy to move the knee away, then you can move yourself closer to the wall. Okay, so we're aiming to draw the knee to be level with the other knee if we can. No twist in the knee. All of this work should feel that it comes from the hip and from the muscles of the hips, not a nerve pinching. So again, I'm keeping the hips themselves and the pelvis steady and straight. I'm not twisting that. I can feel that the two sides of my waist are still even length. I'm flexing my foot so that I stay alert, that my ankle is straight. I'm not letting my foot go floppy, and also I'm not bending that ankle. The ankle is completely straight on the end of my leg as well. I'm going to swap over to do the first side for a second time, and this time we're going to lift. We're going to deliberately bring the knee a little closer. Now you may find that that curves your bottom slightly away from the floor. Slightly is okay. Masses is too much. So again, you will vary how far you are away from your ledge, and you can see I'm doing that just by going onto tiptoes or not. Flexing the foot again, making sure the ankle is straight and not twisting off to one side or another. So here it just changes which part of those bottom and hip muscles are being stretched. So your knee might be a little bit closer in. It really depends on how your muscles are put together and where the stiffnesses are or are not in your body. But what we're aiming to feel is that the outer hip and the bottom muscles are getting quite a deep stretch. And then we're going to swap to the other side. You may find that your hips are not a matching pair. That's completely normal. We're not always as flexible or as stiff on both sides of the body. Hello, cat. So these positions are not symmetrical positions, so you can work to the best of the ability of each side of your body individually. You don't have to do an identical version on each side if that's not what your body's able to do. You do the best version that each side can do independently. Now we're going to place both feet either onto your ledge or onto the wall, and you want to have approximately a right angle as if you were sat on a chair, and you're going to cross the legs over, and this is mimicking eagle pose or Garudasana. So I want to cross the back of this thigh as high up this thigh as possible, so really high up with the cross, and then try and slide the toes down and behind the calf. Okay, I'm going to show you that on the other side, because what you will notice is, firstly, that I find this quite hard, but secondly, that I am rolling over a little bit. This is really tough today. So I'm trying to get my toes behind that calf, and I'm allowing my pelvis to come slightly off the floor, but then I go back to being square on the floor with the pelvis. My two thighs are squashing together very hard, partly to fix the position and also to try and get some length in my shin so that my toes can get underneath that calf a bit better. But it's not easy today. Honestly, this pose is never easy for me, but it's particularly not easy today. So I'm just going to bring the feet down a moment, and then we will cross over the second side for you. So cross as high up your hips as you can, bring that knee as far across as you can. You can roll a little at this point, not too much, but you can roll a little. There, I can get the toes under my calf better on that side. Bring the back of your pelvis square onto the floor. Squeeze the two thighs very strongly together to try and allow your lower leg, the one that's crossed over, a little bit more length so you can get those toes behind the calf. So there's a lot of work going on in the lower legs. And then unravel everything and release. And you can either bring the feet down, or if you're working at the wall, you might actually just want to straighten your legs and lean those feet on the wall. I'm not working on the wall, I've only got a ledge. I'm just going to bring my feet down to the floor, give my hips and my leg muscles a moment's rest. And then we're going to sit up. So now you actually have two options. I'm going to cross my legs and come forwards. If that's too much for you, then you don't need to sit up, because you can do an equivalent of reaching through here, okay? So you cross the legs like this. Let me show you, see if you can get a better view backwards. So you cross your legs like so, and then you reach through this hole here, lift up, reach through, hand here, and either hold the back of the thigh or the shin, and that is an equivalent on one leg of crossing the legs and coming forwards, and it doesn't introduce as much strain on the knee because you're not bringing your body weight forwards over the knee. Okay, if these positions do introduce strain in your knee, you need to work in a way that doesn't create that pain. Now that might be easier said than done. There are lots of adjustments that we can do, but I can't show you them all at once, okay? So the main thing is that these positions shouldn't exacerbate any knee pain. They can, because the hip is a difficult joint to move, and if it doesn't move well, then it forces the knee to move more than it wants to. So it is something you need to be really careful of. However, if you can't avoid the knee pain, then you need to avoid the pose until you can get some individual help on exactly how to do it safely. So can you see I put the belt on whilst we were working? Again, if you don't have a belt, you don't need to use it. But if you can get hold of a belt, it can hold your shoulders back as you bring your head forwards. So now the belt is not so much pushing us into a position that we would not otherwise be able to do. It's keeping the front of the body open so that we can rest more deeply in the position without too much responsibility for it. So you can rest the hands wherever you wish to, but it keeps the shoulders in a much more relaxed place and stops the weight of the shoulders rounding forwards. are going to rest like this for several minutes on each side. So if you are doing the alternative where you're lying on the floor and drawing the knee in, then you can swap sides now with the feet. We're going to swap the cross of the legs, so you can sit up, swap which leg is on the front and which leg is closer into you, and come forwards again. Now if you enjoy relaxing in cross-legged position like this, you can stay exactly as you are. If you prefer not to use the belt, you could take it off at this point. But if you'd rather lie down for a more traditional lying down relaxation, then you can sit up and we will prepare ourselves for that. So you will simply, I'll go this way around for you today. Move all equipment out of the way unless you're deliberately using anything. Be approximately in the middle of your mat. Roll your spine down. If your head tips back and the chin area and the throat area gets over opened, then take some blocks, or if you don't have any blocks, you can take a cushion and just lift the head up so that you feel that the chin is slightly tipped downwards towards your chest. Again, the throat isn't closed, it's neither over open or closed, but it's comfortable. Arms to the side, palms facing up, elbows solid on the floor. Straighten the legs out. Let the feet drop to the side. Close the eyes if you're comfortable to. Take the next few moments to be comfortable, to check that you're even, to check that anything that you're touching in a deliberate way, that it's not, you haven't left any equipment around, or you're not wonky on the mat, or there's a lump of clothing underneath you. Adjust all of those things so that they don't annoy your attention whilst you're trying to stay focused. If you prefer a longer Shavasana, you have an option here to pause the video and set a timer separately for however long you want to practice this meditative, mindful, relaxed state. We will stay with this for a couple of minutes, which is really very short, before we come to an end. begin to bring yourself back to be aware of the room outside of yourself. Go as slowly as you need to. And then move in small ways to begin with. Fingers, toes. Maybe draw the arms or the hands onto your tummy. Bend your knees. Bring your feet to be flat on the floor. Then you're going to turn onto your side, even if you've got a cat in the way. Just roll onto your side and support your head with your arm. Shield your eyes from the light as you open them. And then turn over almost fully onto your front. Use your arms to push yourself upright. Sit in any comfortable way and just give yourself those few last seconds to be thankful for the space you just had to practice and to be ready to move back into the rest of your life. Thank you very much. You can support my channel and give thanks for this class if you're able to afford it by going to my Ko-fi page. That's www.ko-fi/Jo Cook Yoga, and there you can make a small donation or a donation of any size, and it would be gratefully received. Thank you very much.